One of the final things I said in part 4 of the Tsuki ga Kirei analysis was that Akane wanted to talk to Kotoru more. The running narrative of this episode is making that happen. Sort of. This episode takes a lot of time to further establish other aspects of the show. Usually a typical episode will be 70% main plot and 30% setup for future stories. But this episode feels like it's more 50-50, so expect a slightly less focused analysis than you would usually get. The primary conflict is stated with this early shot, framing our duo as separated just like the end of episode 4 did. Kotoru and Akane have no idea how to be in a relationship. Kotoru tries to ask his bookstore friend what people do in a relationship under the guise of researching for a book. However, the bookstore owner sees straight through this and through prying, unintentionally embarrasses Kotoru into dropping the subject. This scene establishes Kotoru's insecurity about being in a relationship, which is fair. These are new grounds for him, new emotions that he cannot quite understand and isn't ready to be open about yet. Not even to his greatest confidant. Akane too seeks advice on how dating is supposed to work. Initially from the internet, but then from her sister. The advice she reads on the internet is mostly teen drama nonsense. The idea that you need to pace yourself when responding to messages and keep your enthusiasm in check are completely antithetical to why she wanted this relationship in the first place. The only advice she reads that I agree with, and I hope I'm not showing my age here, is that you shouldn't be on your phone while with your date. Being overwhelmed by this advice, she asks her sister, who offers much better advice that boils down to they spend time together, which is what they are currently struggling with the most. This seeking of advice creates a sense that Kotoru and Akane's relationship is currently lacking authenticity. These two are more interested in finding out how to be a couple than they are in finding out what being a couple means to them. At the moment, all they need to do is spend some quality time together, and Kotoru has found just the thing. This leads to the couple's first line exchange of the episode, and after all the struggles of not being able to see each other, watching both Akane and Kotoru light up as they get their first messages brings us back to the positive aspects of this relationship. I love the detail that Akane tries to follow the terrible advice she read online, until Kotoru shows vulnerability by saying something sappy and adorable. After which, she abandons the attitude of keeping her cool and reverts to how she would rather act. This again feeds into the idea that these two need to figure out what being in a relationship means to them, and not worry so much about generic advice. They still have a way to go. Even when talking over line, Kotoru sure is lucky that Akane decided to go to the library with him despite the fact that he didn't explicitly invite her. But that's something we'll see improved upon in this very episode. Following this is the library meeting, but we have a few side aspects to catch up on first. See what I mean about this analysis not being as focused? We've got some more solid confirmation that Kotoru struggles academically. First, his teacher warns him how poor test scores could affect his future. Second, we learn from his discussion with Nishio that he attends a cram school. And third, his mother is concerned about his lack of studying, and even threatens to ban him from writing and festival duties should he score poorly. This third exchange also reinforces the idea that Kotoru's mother is very concerned with the decisions he makes and will intervene where she deems necessary. Neither of these aspects plays a role in this episode though, so this is where I'm going to leave it. What does play a role in this episode is Nishio and her friendship with Kotoru. The aforementioned conversation between the two involved more of Nishio being friendly, and she unknowingly crashes the couple's library meetup. This scene comes across to me like the diner scene in episode 1, as the main duo has a big reaction over something minor. However, I find this scene a whole lot less enjoyable. The tension between the two is the emotional equivalent of nails on a chalkboard, and Akane being upset with Kotoru over this exchange baffles me. I suppose these are the kinds of things that could happen at this age, and it is interesting that Akane was only late to this meeting because she was once again dishonest to her friends, which the show further emphasizes is a pointless endeavor, but I still do not get nearly as much enjoyment out of this scene as I do the rest of the show. This encounter has Akane off her game with running, and Hira invites her to walk home together to discuss what's going on. I actually adore the scene where they talk because everything about the framing suggests that it's from Hira's perspective. The scene is bathed in golden light. Hira faces away, all nonchalant and cool. He can't get Akane to admit what's got her down, but it doesn't matter. He talks about how their time running together is coming to an end. In Hira's mind, this is the kind of scene where Akane should fall in love with him, but what's brilliant is that he couldn't be more wrong. Just like in episode 2, he doesn't understand Akane enough to make her feel at ease. The contrast between what Hira thinks he is achieving and what he is actually achieving makes this scene almost comical. Then we get to see Kotoru and Nishio in the same cram school. The scene unsubtly foreshadows the love triangle that will form by the end of the episode by having the teacher discuss Kokoro, a Soseki story about a love triangle. I love the final line of the teacher in the scene. Does that interest you even a little? It's almost like the writers know what a generic trope this is and are trying to give us the heads up. But, as is always the case with generic tropes, they can be forgiven if they are used effectively to explore unique character dynamics. Akane's response to this potential bond between Kotoru and Nishio has been rather uncomfortable, but the following scene re-establishes her resolve to make things work. After hearing her friend talk about breaking off her own relationship, Akane cannot help but think along those lines herself. However, by the end of the scene, she decides that she is not ready to give up yet. We get a more clear sense of this same sentiment from Kotoru when he visits the bookstore that his friend runs. The bookstore owner sees that Kotoru is clearly upset and tries to offer advice using the allegory that Kotoru had set up earlier in the episode. By doing this, he can offer advice without embarrassing Kotoru to the point that he no longer wishes to talk about it. However, something else happens. Kotoru drops the allegory altogether and all but confirms that he is dating someone and asking for genuine advice. The bookstore owner sympathizes with Kotoru and agrees that what they really need is to spend some quality time together, face to face, without interruption. Compare this with the exchange from the last episode, where Kotoru couldn't ask Nishio for Akane's number. His inaction there would have cost him what he wanted had Nishio not put the pieces together. This time he is completely honest and open about his situation, and it pays off. Akane and Kotoru finally get to be alone together, and the first part of their conversation reinforces why they need this to talk face to face. They're too shy to talk to one another at school in the presence of their peers. And after apologizing for the library incident, they find themselves in awkward silence, just as they did in episode 3. But just like episode 3, all they need to get going is a warm-up, this time in the form of Kotoru asking Akane how she did on the recent test. This organically leads into the topic of Kotoru's passion for writing. Akane says that she thinks it's fine that he neglects his studies because he is doing so to work on something he is passionate about, which is a stark contrast to his mother's attitude that studying should be his first priority at all times. The topic of Kotoru's passion transitions into one about Akane's passion for running. She laments that her track meet is coming up, but that she is struggling to improve her time. Kotoru says that he enjoys watching her run, which harkens back to episode 2, when he said that her passion for the sport shows in her performance and that she would eventually get to where she needed to be. He then says that he wants to go to the track meet to cheer for her, but is immediately worried that he has crossed the line when Akane reacts with shock. But after the initial shock has worn off, she tells him in a roundabout, awkward teenager way that she would actually like that. It's at this point, under the song Yasashi Kimochi, or the hand-holding ED from Takagi-san, that Kotoru reaches for Akane's hand, and Akane responds in kind. Kotoru, as per his usual coping mechanism, quotes Desire once again. One thing that humans have that other creatures don't, we have secrets. Yeah, I'm dropping the American accent. That was a terrible idea and I'm sorry I subjected you to it. Now at first glance, all this comes out of nowhere and the Desire quote barely factors in at all. But if we look back on the conversation these two had prior and the events of the episode as a whole, we can make sense of this scene. The hand-holding took place right after a discussion of their passions and an acknowledgement from Akane that she would be open to sharing her passion with Kotoru. Despite the fact that they cannot talk at school, they are already navigating baby steps to become part of each other's lives. So it makes sense, especially after some of the drawbacks earlier, that Kotoru would make a physical declaration of his commitment to this relationship, and that Akane would respond in kind. As for the Dazai quote, it's a declaration from Kotoru that they have now found a comfortable status quo, one that involves keeping their bond a secret from the people they know. This status quo will change throughout the series, but for the time being, Kotoru is content to live in secrecy, and the Dazai quote is his way of justifying this decision. This moment is the climax of the episode, the moment that takes the main conflict and resolves it for the time being. But the episode isn't over yet. Akane declines to follow the only good bit of advice she found on the internet and interrupts this moment to check her phone. And what she reads is the first real threat to the comfortable status quo that the pair had just achieved. Nishio confesses that she likes Kotoru. And with that cliffhanger established, we transition to the ED with another chat between the boyfriend and girlfriend from episodes 1, 3, and 4. This time the two have a conversation about the girlfriend potentially getting a job in a faraway city. There's a misunderstanding as to how the boyfriend reacts to this, and it ends with the girlfriend saying that it was all hypothetical, although we're not completely sure if that's true given the tone of the messages. If you would like to read the transcript for yourself, which I highly recommend, I will leave a link to the Brown Rice Cookies blog in the description. That's all for this analysis. I'd like to thank my patrons: Orion Tran, Lars Espen, Data52, Jaman5, Lemon Shark, Pix Caliber, Alberto Cruz, Tyler Bennett, Tenka, Jeremy Pashik, Fireclaw, Soran, Christopher Wang, Will, Mario, Luke Stewart, Ignacio, Aidan Nielsen, Swiss Cage, Stage 4 Boss, Gordon, and John. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.